Judges chapter 8. Then the men of Ephraim said to him, "What is this that you have done to us, not to call us when you went to fight against Midian?" And they accused him fiercely. And he said to them, "What have I done now in comparison with you? Is not the gleaning of the grapes of Ephraim better than the grape harvest of Abiezer? God has given into your hands the princes of Midian, Oreb, and Zeb. What have I been able to do in comparison with you?" Then their anger against him subsided when he said this. And Gideon came to the Jordan and crossed over, he and the 300 men who were with him, exhausted yet pursuing. So he said to the men of Succoth, "Please give loaves of bread to the people who follow me, for they are exhausted, and I am pursuing after Zebah and Zalmunna, the kings of Midian." And the officials of Succoth said, "Are the hands of Zebah and Zalmunna already in your hand, that we should give bread to your army?" So Gideon said, "Well then, when the Lord has given Zebah and Zalmunna into my hand, I will flail your flesh with the thorns of the wilderness and with briars." And from there he went up to Penuel, and spoke to them in the same way. And the men of Penuel answered him as the men of Succoth had answered. And he said to the men of Penuel, "When I come again in peace, I will break down this tower." Now Zebah and Zalmunna were in Karkor with their army, about 15,000 men, all who were left of all the army of the people of the east. For there had fallen 120,000 men who drew the sword. And Gideon went up by the way of the tent dwellers east of Nobah and Jogbehah, and attacked the army, for the army felt secure. And Zebah and Zalmunna fled, and he pursued them, and captured the 2 kings of Midian, Zebah and Zalmunna, and he threw all the army into a panic. Then Gideon, the son of Joash, returned from the battle by the ascent of Heres, and he captured a young man of Succoth, and questioned him. And he wrote down for him the officials and elders of Succoth, 77 men. And he came to the men of Succoth and said, "Behold, Zebah and Zalmunna, about whom you taunted me, saying, 'Are the hands of Zebah and Zalmunna already in your hand, that we should give bread to your men who are exhausted?' And he took the elders of the city, and he took thorns of the wilderness, and briars, and with them taught the men of Succoth a lesson. And he broke down the tower of Penuel, and killed the men of the city. Then he said to Zebah and Zalmunna, 'Where are the men whom you killed at Tabor?' They answered, 'As you are, so were they. Every one of them resembled the son of a king.' And he said, 'They were my brothers, the sons of my mother. As the Lord lives, if you had saved them alive, I would not kill you.' Turning to Jether, his oldest son, he said, 'Kill them.' But Jether did not draw his sword, because he was only a boy and was afraid. Zebah and Zalmunna said, 'Come, do it yourself. As is the man, so is his strength.' So Gideon stepped forward and killed them, and took the ornaments off their camels' necks. The Israelites said to Gideon, 'Rule over us, you, your son, and your grandson, because you have saved us from the hand of Midian.' But Gideon told them, 'I will not rule over you, nor will my son rule over you. The Lord will rule over you.' And he said, 'I do have one request, that each of you give me an earring from your share of the plunder.' It was the custom of the Ishmaelites to wear gold earrings. They answered, 'We'll be glad to give them.' So they spread out a garment, and each of them threw a ring from his plunder onto it. The weight of the gold rings he asked for came to 1,700 shekels, not counting the ornaments, the pendants, and the purple garments worn by the kings of Midian, or the chains that were on their camels' necks. Gideon made the gold into an ephod, which he placed in Ophrah, his town. All Israel prostituted themselves by worshipping it there, and it became a snare to Gideon and his family. Thus Midian was subdued before the Israelites and did not raise its head again. During Gideon's lifetime, the land had peace 40 years. Jerubbaal, son of Joash, went back home to live. He had 70 sons of his own, for he had many wives. His concubine, who lived in Sheckchham, also bore him a son, whom he named Abimelech. Gideon, son of Joash, died at a good old age and was buried in the tomb of his father Joash in Ophrah of the Abiezrites. No sooner had Gideon died than the Israelites again prostituted themselves to the Baals. They set up Baal-berith as their god and did not remember the Lord their God, who had rescued them from the hands of all their enemies on every side. They also failed to show any loyalty to the family of Jerubbaal, that is, Gideon, in spite of all the good things he had done for them. Chapter 9. Abimelech, son of Jerubbaal, went to his mother's brothers in Sheckchham, and said to them and to all his mother's clan, "Ask all the citizens of Sheckchham, which is better for you, to have all 70 of Jerubbaal's sons rule over you, or just one man? Remember, I am your flesh and blood." When the brothers repeated all this to the citizens of Sheckchham, they were inclined to follow Abimelech, for they said, "He is related to us." They gave him 70 shekels of silver from the temple of Baal-berith, and Abimelech used it to hire reckless scoundrels who became his followers. He went to his father's home in Ophrah, and on one stone murdered his 70 brothers, the sons of Jerubbaal. But Jotham, the youngest son of Jerubbaal, escaped by hiding. Then all the citizens of Sheckchham and Beth Millo gathered beside the great tree at the pillar in Sheckchham to crown Abimelech king. Now when they told Jotham, he went and stood on top of Mount Gerizim and raised his voice and called out. And he said to them, "Listen to me, you leaders of Sheckchham, that God may listen to you." Once the trees went to anoint a king over them, and they said to the olive tree, "Reign over us." But the olive tree said to them, "Shall I give up my fatness with which God and mankind are honored, and go to wave over the trees?" Then the trees said to the fig tree, "You come reign over us." But the fig tree said to them, "Shall I give up my sweetness and my good fruit, and go to wave over the trees?" Then the trees said to the vine, "You come reign over us." But the vine said to them, "Shall I give up my new wine, which cheers God and mankind, and go to wave over the trees?" Then all the trees said to the bramble, "You come reign over us." And the bramble said to the trees, "If you really are anointing me as king over you, come and take refuge in my shade. But if not, may fire come out of the bramble and consume the cedars of Lebanon." Now then, if you have acted with honesty and integrity in making Abimelech king, and if you have dealt well with Jerubbaal and his house, and have dealt well with him as he deserved, for my father fought for you and risked his life and saved you from the hand of Midian, but in fact, you have risen against my father's house today and have killed his sons, 70 men on one stone, and have made Abimelech, the son of his female slave, king over the leaders of Sheckchham, because he is your relative. So if you have acted with honesty and integrity toward Jerubbaal and his house this day, be joyful about Abimelech, and may he also be joyful about you. But if not, may fire come out of Abimelech and consume the leaders of Sheckchham and Beth Millo, and may fire come out of the leaders of Sheckchham and from Beth Millo, and consume Abimelech. Then Jotham escaped and fled, and went to Beer, and he stayed there because of his brother Abimelech. Now Abimelech ruled over Israel for 3 years. Then God sent an evil spirit between Abimelech and the leaders of Sheckchham, and the leaders of Sheckchham dealt treacherously with Abimelech, so that the violence done to the 70 sons of Jerubbaal would come, and the responsibility for their blood would be placed on their brother Abimelech, who killed them, and on the leaders of Sheckchham, who encouraged him to kill his brothers. The leaders of Sheckchham set up men in ambush against him on the tops of the mountains, and they robbed everyone who would pass by them on the road, and it was reported to Abimelech. Now Gaal, the son of Ebed, came with his relatives and crossed over into Shechem, and the leaders of Shechem trusted him. So they went out to the field and gathered the grapes of their vineyards and trampled them, and had a festival. And they went into the house of their god, and ate and drank, and cursed Abimelech. Then Gaal the son of Ebed said to them, "Who is Abimelech, and who is Shechem, that we should serve him? Is he not the son of Jerubbaal, and is Zebul not his governor? Serve the men of Hamor, the father of Shechem, but why should we serve him? If only this people were under my authority, then I would do away with Abimelech." And he said to Abimelech, "Enlarge your army and come out." When Zebul, the leader of the city, heard the words of Gaal the son of Ebed, his anger burned. So using deception, he successfully sent messengers to Abimelech, saying, "Behold, Gaal the son of Ebed and his relatives have come to Shechem, and behold, they are stirring up the city against you. So now, arise by night, you and all the people who are with you, and lie in wait in the field. Then in the morning, as soon as the sun is up, you shall rise early and attack the city. And behold, when he and the people who are with him come out against you, you shall do to them whatever you can." So Abimelech and all the people who were with him got up at night and lay in wait against Shechem in 4 units. Now Gaal, the son of Ebed, went out and stood at the entrance of the city gate, and Abimelech and the people who were with him arose from the ambush. When Gaal saw the people, he said to Zebul, "Look, people are coming down from the tops of the mountains." But Zebul said to him, "You are seeing the shadows of the mountains as if they were people." And Gaal spoke yet again and said, "Look, people are coming down from the highest part of the land, and 1 unit is coming by way of the diviner's oak." Then Zebul said to him, "Where then is your boasting with which you said, 'Who is Abimelech, that we should serve him?' Is this not the people whom you rejected? Go out now and fight them." So Gaal went out in the sight of the leaders of Shechem and fought Abimelech. But Abimelech chased him, and he fled from him, and many fell wounded up to the entrance of the gate. Then Abimelech stayed in Arumah, but Zebul drove out Gaal and his relatives, so that they could not stay in Shechem. Now it came about the next day that the people went out to the field, and it was reported to Abimelech. So he took his people and divided them into 3 units and lay in wait in the field. When he looked and saw the people coming out from the city, he attacked them and killed them. Then Abimelech and the company who was with him rushed forward and stood at the entrance of the city gate. The other 2 companies then attacked all who were in the field and killed them. Abimelech fought against the city that whole day, and he captured the city and killed the people who were in it. Then he tore down the city and sowed it with salt. When the leading citizens who lived in the tower of Shechem heard what had happened, they ran and hid in the temple of Baal-berith. Someone reported to Abimelech that the citizens had gathered in the temple. So he led his forces to Mount Zalmon. He took an axe and chopped some branches from a tree, then put them on his shoulder. "Quick, do as I have done," he told his men. So each of them cut down some branches, following Abimelech's example. They piled the branches against the walls of the temple and set them on fire. So all the people who had lived in the tower of Shechem died, about 1,000 men and women. Then Abimelech attacked the town of Thebes and captured it, But there was a strong tower inside the town, and all the men and women, the entire population, fled to it. They barricaded themselves in and climbed up to the roof of the tower. Abimelech followed them to attack the tower, but as he prepared to set fire to the entrance, a woman on the roof dropped a millstone that landed on Abimelech's head and crushed his skull. He quickly said to his young armor-bearer, "Draw your sword and kill me. Do not let it be said that a woman killed Abimelech." So the young man ran him through with his sword, and he died. When Abimelech's men saw that he was dead, they disbanded and returned to their homes. In this way, God punished Abimelech for the evil he had done against his father by murdering his 70 brothers. God also punished the men of Sheckchham for all their evil. So the curse of Jotham, son of Gideon, was fulfilled.